which was probably too awkward and torture to rhyme even for me. An early version of this song also had the "Don't Worry, Bill Murray" rhyme couplet that I used on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pokemon, I think in like 2008. I think that was just temporary lyrics that I ended up recycling. But yeah, that means that the melody and bass line for this are even older than 2008. It might have been like Dinosaur Orchestra era, like 2006 or something. This is me playing guitar badly, but I'm using that BitSpeak plugin again. It's very unique sounding. It's kind of like a kazoo. The song is about a cloud man or a ghost, or maybe just a metaphor for someone who thinks that being a total mystery makes him attractive. And I do the thing that I usually do, where I figure out an underlying metaphor, and that's good enough. Now I can move on and just have fun with the literal side of the lyrics. So there's something about male unrelatability in there, but mostly it's just a Cloud Man song. The drums in this part of the song are just a bunch of really compressed like claps and cowbells that are being wildly tuned up and down. I always feel like the bridge is a good place to attempt to humanize a weird character that I'm singing about. Like, yeah, jokes, 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 but no, I'm serious. Okay, back to jokes. I think rhyming the word nervous with surface is within the acceptable range of rhymes. In an early version of this, I had the line change each time, so I'd say, what you girls really need is a nebulous man or a fragmental man. And I kind of miss those lines, because fragmental is a good word. What makes you see spots was a line change. I had something about seeping through the vents before. Either way, he's some sort of poisonous gas, maybe. I think I specified that he's hitting on a whole group of women at once to try and undercut the creepiness of this noxious, pervasive character. That's still the point, but at least he's outnumbered. Final thing I did was this little vocal thing here. Reminds me of Cornelius. As your father, I expressly forbid it. I liked doing such a simple bass and guitar riff. There's still some good chord changes in the song, but they're all lumped together in one part of the verse. And then it comes back to that riff, or, the chorus, just louder. It's actually so simple, I am really curious if this thing has been done before. If anyone has found a prior use, please let me know. This is yet another unpleasant character, but I liked doing this cartoonish, strict dad because it let me yell most of the lyrics instead of sing. Because all I really wanted to do was say things like, don't talk about the internet in an unhinged manner. So this title is in the present tense, and I went back and forth a couple times thinking like, am I using the word expressly correctly? Does it matter? It just feels like something that you've heard a dad say in a movie at some point, but I don't think it is. It made me think of King Triton from The Little Mermaid, and I'll talk about him in a second. I just want to say that I really like my dad, and we get along very well, and he was never ever like the dad in this song. This nightmare dad is just a character, and I also, I think, would try very hard not to be this dad. The lack of trust and friendship on display here is very sad. He does apologize for yelling, but he's just yelling for the whole song, and then he threatens to yell some more. I think this dad only has this one move. Or maybe he doesn't even really yell at his kid, and this song is just like an internal monologue, and he has to lock himself in his bedroom and just scream it out with his guitar. It's a better idea. So this breakdown was originally going to be me quoting King Triton's various scoldings of Ariel, and I guess it was too weird, so I turned those lines into a bass solo, so they're still there in a way. He's a human. You're a mermaid. I did this song live, and I used a backing video that was just a really cheap slideshow of every pop culture dad I could think of. So it was like Archie Bunker and Nigel Thornberry and Goofy and Jack Torrance and Major Dad, Papa Smurf, and I made sure to get my own dad in there too. But yeah, this is the ultimate anthem for dads, and they should play it for father-daughter dances at weddings instead of that fucking John Mayer song. This effect is called a ring modulator, and I'm applying it to the synth that runs through the song here. There's this sort of gritty sine wave playing randomized notes throughout the song, and whenever the guitar is strummed, it fades out for a second. That's called sidechain compression, folks. This is Iron My Life, by the way. It's a rare song that had lyrics that were written before the music. And, I mean, that's not rare, but for me it is. And it was always supposed to come right after As Your Father. I think the song was born in the lyrics text file for that song. And it was always going to be a more intimate take on the same overkill dad. It's all the mantras he repeats to himself to remind himself why he's such an asshole. He doesn't know how not to be afraid, so he channels it into unpleasant behavior and decides it's a virtue. So there's a sympathetic guy here, but he's buried under some really difficult layers. These songs are not inspired by anyone that I really know. They're just imagining someone who's ruled by emotions that everyone gets to some degree, but which seem to be amplified sometimes by parenthood. And then you just got your classic death stuff here. And it's funny because characters in songs should not be worried about death. I should. You should. But fictional characters need to lighten up a little bit. Cool thing about this song is there's only like 2 words that rhyme with life, and everyone knows that, so they're willing to cut me some slack if I want to rhyme it with something like survive. This flute solo is actually like a grade school recorder, and I recorded it in little bits, and I spliced them all together. So if you had a mental image of me like totally jamming away on a flute, yeah, that's a false image, sorry. What you want to imagine is me sitting in a chair with a wooden recorder, hitting R on my keyboard, playing 2 notes, hitting spacebar, rewinding a couple seconds, listening to it, hitting Control-Z because it didn't sound good, recording it again, then moving on to the next 2 notes. What I do is very glamorous, extremely rock and roll. Despite this being the most serious track on the album, I guess, it's still, musically, it's like a total grab bag. I got like 8-bit percussion and organs and horns and all sorts of craziness. This could totally be another song about crayons if I wanted to, but why can't we throw a party in honor of the crushing weight of responsibility? Making this music involves a lot of sitting on my butt, not interacting with other people, and I overcompensate for that, and I'm okay with this, by making every song danceable on some level. This song is called Reaganomics. This is Ronald Reagan speaking. I took one of his famous quotes and I edited it to be more nonsensical, although it was pretty nonsensical to start with. This is a trick that I really should do more often, where it's you have a different part at the beginning that comes back later as the bridge. I always feel a sense of intent when that happens. So this song is mostly in 6/4 time, which is not the weirdest time signature, but for some reason it's not very common. The vast majority of pop music is in 4/4, and whenever someone wants to be different or difficult, they usually pick a weird, odd-numbered time signature. The problem with doing that is the inevitable, "This sounds like Rush" comments. But 6/4 feels natural to me. It's 4 beats, then 2 beats, and repeat. And speaking of being difficult, this song has backup vocals that are singing different lines over the main vocals. So if you want to sing along, you really have to pick one or the other. And then the chorus is back to 4/4 time. This was definitely one of those songs where I was thinking of an interesting sounding word, Reaganomics, and I checked to see if any other songs had been written with that as the title, and I saw that it was up for grabs, and I just went for it. There is a band by that name who do 80s covers, but I figured that was different enough. But actually, I was wrong. There was another song, at least one other song called Reaganomics, and it's from the year 1985 by DRI, a thrash metal band, and it's 42 seconds long. I just listened to it. The lyrics are just, Reaganomics killing me, Reaganomics killing you. I have to hand it to those boys. Their song is more to the point than mine. I consider Reagan a pretty bad president, though I wasn't conscious then. This was written before Trump, and I was fascinated that an actor became president and that he was canonized, and everyone just takes it for granted now. Of course, he did serve as a governor, and it doesn't seem as crazy now, but I was looking at all these old pictures of Reagan dressed all slickly in his suits, and I felt that amping up the superficial charm to sell people on something that doesn't really make sense works all too well in a pop song. You just have to say baby a lot and make endless promises because the song ends in 3 minutes. And it was astounding to me to realize how stepping into the role of a snake oil salesman bent on deceiving the listener, how easy that made it to write a passable pop song. And now anytime I hear a song where some guy is reaching out his hand and asking you to trust him with your heart, I just wonder what scam he's running. You know, like that song Magic Carpet Ride, I'm thinking Steppenwolf doesn't really have a magic carpet. And you know, Kokomo is not a real place, so what are the Beach Boys trying to pull? Is it a tax thing? You can hear a bit of that white noise here. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's still a ghost. There's a lot of 80s influence on this album, but I put this and Reaganomics together because they share a certain power suit megalomania quality. And I liked that I managed to make this sound like music from a deteriorating corporate training tape. It's like kind of optimistic, but in a cold survival of the fittest kind of way. This melody and chord progression were something that I used to just play on the piano all the time. There are tunes that develop from just humming a melody or placing notes manually with the mouse cursor. And there are songs that I play on the piano that won't get recorded at all for years. They just kind of live within that piano realm. I really hit the top of my vocal range in this song, but I had no choice, because sometimes music just sounds right, and transposing it down or up to accommodate my vocal range messes with it. Suddenly I've got notes that just are too low and they don't sound good. And I've already got the melody planned out, and I'm not going to change the notes just because I can barely hit them. So I just kind of forge ahead, and if I can't hit the note, then try again tomorrow. And very gradually over the years, I have actually been able to extend my upper range a little bit. It doesn't always sound great, but I can do it. This song makes me think of if Bruce Wayne's parents never died and he didn't care about crime, but he still had all that dark energy in him. He would just spend all night staring out the window, envisioning skyscrapers he could be building. I'm glad I put some special synths from my childhood here. You can hear some MS-DOS style ad-lib instruments mixed in. This would be a good song to put on while you're playing Sim Tower, I think. Or if you're playing Sim Ant, you can play the next track. A lot of my songs are inspired by Wikipedia articles. I'll just go down a Wikipedia hole and find something that makes me want to write a song about it. And this one was a page called List of Visionary Tall Buildings and Structures. And it's just a list arranged by height of hypothetical or planned or designed but possibly unbuildable mega structures. A lot of them are like these insanely huge pyramids that like 1 million people could live in, and they're all way, way, way taller than the actual tallest building that exists. So those always make me think about how incredible or incredibly dangerous it would be if one of them actually existed. And the phrase man-made object is a qualifier that I sometimes have to put in when I'm wondering, what's the oldest thing? What's the biggest thing? When really the question I'm asking is, what's the biggest thing that we have done as a species? And for something to hold that kind of record, someone needs to have envisioned it that way. This is just my voice and the bell, digitally stretched out. And actually, I just realized that I used a really similar sounding bell at the end of the last track as the intro of this one. That was unintentional. One of the last things I added to this track was these old stock thunder sound effects. I guess they punctuate the secondary metaphor of this song of weather and hurricanes, but mostly I liked how they sounded. The chord progression for this song actually comes from like an instrumental track that I made years ago that also had the chords for No-Eyed Girl kind of as part of the same song, and they ended up getting split into 2 different tracks years later. And I think I posted that a while ago on Twitter, if you're trying to find it. I think the high tinkly piano here is probably inspired by the original Sesame Street theme. I always liked how that sounded. You can't play the top of the piano and take yourself too seriously. That's the baby part of the piano. So ant mills, or ant death spirals, are this phenomenon where ants get into a feedback loop with each other's pheromones, and they start walking around in a circle or a spiral endlessly until they all die of exhaustion. I knew this would be a potent metaphor, and all I had to do was like carefully write around it without giving up that I don't know what I'm doing. I can tell you some things about bugs, and if you like the music and have an imagination, hopefully it will become a meaningful song on delivery. Or if you're like me, you just listen to songs without consciously parsing the lyrics, sort of in one ear and out the other, and the vocals are just another instrument. That's how I listen to music. I go years without realizing what a song is actually about. And I'd have a much easier time writing songs if everyone were like that. But some of you are those maniacs who instantly focus in on understanding the lyrics, and you know right away if it's a good song or just a good sounding song. And I live in fear of you people. Please, just let me sing about bugs. Bugs that don't matter. That's all I want to do. I mean, it's very satisfying to successfully make a song that feels a little more substantial through the use of words and, emotionally evocative singing. It just takes way longer to do that. Anyway, this is the last track on Spirit Phone, the proper album. There's a bunch of bonus tracks that I don't have a ton to talk about them, so I'm just going to summarize them real quickly. Starting now. Crisis Actors is about the shitty theory that Alex Jones types put forth, that victims of certain politically inconvenient tragedies are just paid actors and the whole thing's a sham to push public opinion or whatever. This track was almost a proper track on Spirit Phone, but I was running out of room. It also quotes the cool banner that lands on the T-Rex at the end of Jurassic Park. Redesign Your Logo is an older song, full of meaningless 6-syllable phrases evoking bunk marketing jargon. There was a PDF file floating around describing the total moon logic that was justifying Pepsi's logo redesign. It may have been a hoax document, but either way, some firm got paid a ton of money for that awful logo. You know the one. Pizza Heroes. My sister Emmy was kicking around this idea for a cartoon about pizza delivery team who could travel extremely fast to anywhere in the world, so I wrote this for that hypothetical cartoon. You're at the Party is a track that I never quite finished to my liking. It's about a sick person who's trying to sleep while a noisy party happens next door, and it gradually overtakes him and invades his nightmares. Or are they nightmares? I don't know, it's ambiguous. Angry People is this intense techno song about how, I guess, hate sex leads to evil babies, and everyone's angry and trying to lead normal lives without ever not being angry, and then they turn into wolves and tigers and stuff. GeoCities and Angel Fire are two instrumental songs. They're just fun. GeoCities has an edited sample at the end of The Voter, an early speech synthesis machine that kind of worked like a reverse stenography keyboard. Gravitron is a demo I wrote as an ultimately unused theme song for the show Gravity Falls, back when its creator Alex Hirsch was preparing his pitch. I wasn't sure what the vibe of the show was going to be exactly, so I wrote a couple themes covering the spectrum. This is the one that I wrote inspired by the creepy, weird, vintage inspiration material that he had collected. The other theme I wrote had lyrics, and it's not a bonus track on this album, but Moon's Request is a remix of one line that I sung from that song. And I remember making this remix to try and break my writer's block while coming up with themes for this show. The Sweet Bod demo, I talked about that already. Cat Hacks is a crazy sounding instrumental. It was supposed to have lyrics, sort of, just a list of hacks for your cat, such as tape a marker to your cat, DIY GPS tracker, stack multiple cats for that extra vertical cat value, make a sincere attempt for once in your life at empathizing with other people and your cat. Cabinet Man demo, I talked a little bit about that already. Kubrick and the Beast was supposed to be the opening track for Spirit Phone at one point, but the album's tone ended up going in another direction, and I had to break it to myself gently. And that's ultimately what this album was about. I think it's got a certain tone, despite using multiple genres. But these songs were written separately over multiple years, spanning a lot of changes in my life, and with that in mind, of course there's no singular theme that ties them all together, but I did luck out, and they all kind of fit within 3 or 4 categories, I guess. And they gel in a way that hopefully kind of justifies it being such a long album. And if you're listening to this, I guess you liked it enough to listen to me talk about it for this long. And I'm extremely lucky and grateful that there are people like you who listened to this album and actually felt something. Even after putting out music for 2/3 of my life, that's still a really magical feeling. So thank you, thank you, thank you.